They built an empire together. One of them walked away a millionaire. The other went to prison. Now they're in the same room again. No one recognized him when he walked through the glass doors of Echelon Capital. The lobby smelled of money and fresh orchids. An assistant offered him sparkling water before he'd even said his name. That was the kind of place it was now. Sleek, polished, emotionless. Nothing like the cramped office with peeling paint and a second-hand coffee machine where he and Sam had first started 10 years ago. He gave his name, Matthew Kane. The receptionist, not even born when they launched their scrappy investment firm, tapped something into a touchscreen and smiled. "Mr. Kane, you're expected. Top floor." The elevator ride was quiet, too quiet. Just the hum of movement and the distorted reflection of his face in the brushed steel. He didn't recognize the men staring back at him. The jaw more square now, the eyes harder. Years had sculpted something leaner, colder. But beneath that, nerves vibrated like a live wire. It had taken a lot to get here. A deal with the SEC. A sealed file. And one condition: go undercover at the firm that had made him and nearly destroyed him. No one could know who he really was. When the doors slid open, he saw her first. Angela. Sam's executive assistant. Loyal to the core, sharper than a blade. Her eyes flared when she saw him, but she caught herself in a breath. "Mr. Kane," she said, neutral. "Welcome." He nodded. "Good to see you, Angela." She gestured toward the double doors at the end of the hallway. "He's waiting." He. Not Sam. Not your old partner. Just he. Matthew stepped inside. The office hadn't changed much. Bigger, sure. Furniture sleeker, art more expensive. But the view still took up an entire wall, the skyline shimmering in the midday haze. And behind the massive desk, just as he'd pictured him, Samuel Halbridge. Tanned, tailored, and twice as confident as any man had a right to be. Sam looked up. His smile was slow, measured. "Well, I'll be damned," he said. Matthew Kane. Back from the dead. Matthew played his part. Not dead. Just, under the radar. Sam stood and came around the desk. His handshake was firm, like nothing had ever happened. "I heard you were doing something in Dubai. Oil money or something." Matthew shrugged. "Something like that. Looking for a change. Thought I'd come back to where it started." "And you thought I'd just hire you?" Sam asked, smiling. "I thought you might need someone who knows how to make money." Sam laughed. "Always the pitchman. All right, let's see what you've got. We're launching a new hedge this quarter. High stakes. I could use a ghost. Someone invisible." Matthew's throat tightened. "Ghost. Perfect." Sam led him out onto the trading floor, where a dozen screens blinked with numbers, faces buried in headsets, analysts murmuring in codes only they understood. Sam pointed to a desk. "You start Monday. Angela will get you cleared. You screw up, I'll bury you. But if you deliver, well, maybe we bury the past." Matthew smiled tightly. The past wasn't buried. It was watching from every shadow. The fraud. The betrayal. The years lost. He'd come back to expose the truth. And Sam had no idea. Rain hammered the windshield like a ticking clock running out of time. Michael sat in his parked car across the street from the sleek glass building that bore his ex-partner's name, Holt and Wexler Capital, as if the past had never happened. As if they hadn't buried a company and nearly buried each other with it. Inside, somewhere beyond the reflective walls and polished marble floors, was Daniel Holt. It had been 9 years. 9 years since the company they'd started in a garage, fueled by sleepless ambition and reckless loyalty, had imploded in a cloud of missing money and shattered reputations. Daniel walked away clean. Michael didn't. He'd served 2 years. White-collar prison, sure, but a cage is still a cage when it locks behind you. Now Michael was back. Not for revenge, at least that's what he told himself, but for justice. The men who'd recruited him sat silently in the passenger seat. Special Agent Rebecca Ng. Her coat collar turned up against the cold, her eyes trained on the building like she could see through it. "You good?" she asked. Michael nodded, jaw tight. "As good as I'll get." She handed him the small recording device, disguised as a Montblanc pen, and the slim phone synced to a secure line. You get in, you get out. Stick to the asset transfer files. Don't improvise. Right, he said, but his voice cracked slightly on the word. And just like that, he stepped back into a world he'd once helped build, brick by bloody brick. Daniel's assistant looked up, confused, when Michael strode through the lobby. Can I help you? He smiled politely. Michael Wexler. I have a 9 a.m. with Mr. Holt. She blinked. He didn't mention, but then her eyes widened. The name. That name. She buzzed him through. The office hadn't changed much. Daniel's taste had always leaned toward understated opulence, dark oak, smoked glass, low leather chairs that swallowed you when you sat. Daniel stood as Michael entered, disbelief coloring his face, then a slow, guarded smile. Mike. Dan. Neither of them moved to hug. Too much unsaid. Too much undone. You're out, Daniel said finally, voice flat. Been out a while. Silence. Then Daniel gestured to the seat across from his desk. You want something? Or are you here to throw a drink in my face? Michael didn't blink. I want a job. Daniel stared. Then laughed, bitter and sudden. You can't be serious. Michael leaned in. I know how you think. I know how you hide things in numbers. I know where you bury risk so it smells like profit. You're still running this place like a shell game, I can smell it from the street. Daniel's jaw clenched, but he didn't deny it. I'm not asking, Michael said. I'm telling you. I'm not leaving until you give me a desk. Daniel stood, walked to the window, back turned. The silence was thick with history. Then, you sink me, Mike, you go down again. And next time, they won't go easy. Michael stood, too. I already went down for something I didn't do. Daniel turned, eyes cold. That's not how I remember it. They stared at each other like two survivors who couldn't agree on what burned the house down. But Daniel finally nodded. Just once. You start Monday. That night, Michael sat on the floor of his apartment, lights off, phone in hand. He didn't call Rebecca. Not yet. Instead, he stared at the pen recorder, wondering how much of himself he'd need to lie about to make this work. He'd told her he was doing this for justice. But somewhere in his chest, a darker truth was waking up. He still needed Daniel to look at him and say, I was wrong. He needed to hear it like a lifeline. And maybe, just maybe, he needed it more than the truth. The air inside Holt and Wexler was chilled with precision. Like everything Daniel touched, it was immaculate but cold. Even the silence had a price tag. Michael took his seat at the back corner of the floor, no window, no nameplate. Just a desk and a login that worked, barely. Angela, Daniel's longtime assistant, had set him up without a word, her eyes never quite meeting his. By noon, he'd already spotted 3 irregularities in the ledgers. Minor, almost invisible. But to Michael, they flashed like flares in the night. He could see the pattern, a shuffle of funds between shell entities and LLCs with names like Heliotrope Global and Boxwood Trust. Harmless in isolation. Sinister in rhythm. He downloaded everything to an encrypted drive and slid the Montblanc pen closer, tapping it twice to confirm the data had synced. By 3, he found the name he hadn't expected, Layla Tan. Chief of Risk Management. 10 years ago, she'd been a junior analyst they barely noticed. Now, she was signing off on assets worth hundreds of millions. He leaned back. Layla had always been sharp. Quiet. Invisible in the way only someone very smart learns to be. Was she in on it? Or just another pawn? At 5:40 p.m., she appeared by his desk. You're Wexler. He looked up, startled. Layla had the same low, unreadable voice. Her expression gave nothing away. But her eyes, they flicked to the pen. A second too long. Your Holt's charity case now, she asked flatly. I'm just working, he said. You always said you hated working for people dumber than you. Guess you've changed. He didn't answer. He couldn't. Something about her presence hit harder than it should have. Guilt, maybe. Or memory. I didn't think I'd see you again, she said. Not after what happened. He met her gaze. You think I did it? She didn't look away. I think if you had, you wouldn't be back. Then she walked away, her heels soft but sharp against the tile. No accusation. No forgiveness either. Just fact. That night, he met Rebecca in a silent parking structure off Folsom. He handed her the encrypted drive. The fraud's still going. But it's buried deeper. They're using real companies to pass phantom assets. She scanned the files. This is good. But we need more. Something solid. Something that ties Holt directly. Michael hesitated. There's someone else. Layla Tan. She's signing off on it. Is she dirty? I don't know, he said. She used to be clean. People change. Michael looked out over the city. Or they just get tired of losing. Rebecca was quiet. Then, get her talking. Off the record. Friend to friend. He almost laughed. We were never friends. Then pretend. You used to be good at that. The next day, Layla left a file on his desk. No note. Just a sticky tab on page 38. It was an asset transfer authorization, routine on the surface. But the signature wasn't hers. It was a copy-paste. A digital forgery. Sloppy. And very intentional. Michael read it twice, his pulse drumming. Layla wasn't just watching. She was waving a red flag. He glanced toward her office. The blinds were closed. Something was about to give. And if he wasn't careful, it might be him. The elevator to Layla's floor moved like it had a secret to keep. Michael pressed the button with a fingertip still trembling. Not from fear, but from the sudden, undeniable knowledge that she was inside this thing with him now. Not just a shadow in the ledgers. A player. He knocked softly on her glass door. She didn't look up, just said, "Close it behind you." He did. Her office was immaculate, too immaculate. Nothing out of place, not even the breath she took before speaking. I assume you saw the transfer form. He nodded. Whose idea was it? She looked at him then. It doesn't matter. It's not mine. That's the point. So why show me? Layla tilted her head. Because you're not just here for a paycheck, and I'm not as invisible as Daniel thinks. Michael stepped forward, voice low. You know what he's doing, don't you? Her silence was answer enough. He tried to read her. Tried to remember who she'd been before this place hardened everyone. Layla had always been brilliant, but silent. She'd stayed on the sidelines, never joining the boys' club, never smiling too long or speaking too much. I thought you were smarter than this, he said finally. Layla's laugh was sharp. Don't confuse silence with submission, Michael. I've watched these men lie to rooms full of investors without blinking. I've watched them sell each other out for a percentage bump. You think I don't know what survival costs? He swallowed. Then why the forgery? Because I want out, she said. And the only way out of a place like this is to set it on fire. That night, Michael and Layla sat in his apartment, hunched over spreadsheets and documents. She decrypted internal memos, showed him masked account numbers tied to blacklisted jurisdictions, Belize, Cyprus, and the Cayman Islands. Michael's heart sank with every click. He's routing assets through abandoned hedge vehicles, Layla said. Then revaluing them based on internal comps. It's all fake. The money doesn't exist, it never did. Michael rubbed his face. Why now? Why risk everything? She looked at him then, softer. Because you're here. Because someone finally came back who remembers what this place was supposed to be. That stopped him. Was that what this was? Some broken nostalgia. A flicker of who they were before ambition ate everything. He looked at her again. Really looked. Layla wasn't cold. She was exhausted. And for the first time, he realized she wasn't saving him. She was handing him a match. They met Rebecca the next night in a church parking lot, rain painting halos on the windshield. Layla passed the drive over wordlessly. Rebecca plugged it into her tablet. After 5 minutes, she looked up. Her face was stone. This is enough to get a warrant. Not an arrest. Not yet. We need Daniel. Layla leaned back in the car seat. You'll never get him through emails. He deletes everything. Everything sensitive is verbal. Michael frowned. So how does anything get approved? Angela, Layla said. She's the vault. Every meeting, every whispered call, Angela writes the minutes. She has them all. But she's loyal to him. Rebecca looked at Michael. Then you need to get her to turn. Michael stared into the dark, the weight of old sins pressing against his spine. Angela. The woman who once told him she believed in him when no one else would. She won't talk to me, he said. Layla's voice was ice. Then find someone she will. And suddenly, Michael knew who that was. His heart clenched. His hands clenched. Because it meant digging up the one person he swore he'd never look in the eye again. His brother. The one who still blamed him for everything. Michael hadn't seen Aaron in 5 years. Not since the trial. Not since Aaron sat stone-faced in the back row of the courtroom, hands folded in his lap like he didn't recognize the men being sentenced. The men who used to be his brother. The men who ruined their father's retirement fund chasing a dream that turned to ash. Now, standing outside the small auto garage in Redwood City, Michael wasn't sure if he should knock or just leave. The place still smelled like burnt oil and frayed timing belts, like youth and anger that never got out clean. He took a breath, pushed the door open. Aaron looked up from under the hood of an old Jeep. Same shoulders, broader now. Same jawline. But something was harder about him. Set deeper. Like time had burned the softness away. What the hell are you doing here? Aaron asked, wiping his hands on a rag that used to be a t-shirt. I need your help, Michael said. Aaron tossed the rag on the workbench. You lost the right to ask for that years ago. Michael nodded. I know. But I'm asking anyway. Aaron crossed his arms. Make it quick. Michael told him everything. Not the undercover part, not yet. Just that Daniel Holt was still running schemes, still laundering money through fake entities. That Layla Tan had come forward. That they needed Angela's trust. And Angela wouldn't talk to him. But maybe she'd talk to Aaron. Aaron blinked, caught off guard. Angela. Why would she talk to me? Michael hesitated. Because she liked you. Because you were always honest. Aaron looked away. And because I'm not a criminal. Michael's stomach twisted. Yeah. A long silence. Finally, Aaron sighed. She works the front desk now, right? Some kind of office administrator. She's still Daniel's shadow. Everything goes through her. Aaron stared at the floor for a long beat, then nodded once. I'll talk to her. No promises. Angela agreed to coffee. Nothing more. They met at a quiet cafe 2 blocks from Holt and Wexler. Aaron came alone, no wire, just a heart still sore from years of distance and blame. You've aged well, she said, sipping green tea. You haven't aged at all, he replied. She smiled softly. Flatterer. He leaned in. I need to ask you something, and I won't push. But Daniel, he's doing things again. Michael's trying to stop him. Angela's eyes tightened. I don't want to know. You already do. She looked away. I've kept my head down for 10 years. I didn't ask questions. That's how I survived. Aaron nodded. Then why did you agree to meet me? Her voice dropped to a whisper. Because I remember when Michael used to talk about changing the world. And I believed him. Angela slid a small notebook across the table. Handwritten, leather-bound. Old-fashioned. Meeting notes, she said. Not the ones I typed for the record. The real ones. The ones Daniel didn't know I kept. Aaron swallowed. You kept these? All these years? I keep everything, she whispered. That night, Aaron handed the notebook to Michael in the alley behind Rebecca's drop site. No words passed between them, just a nod. An apology unspoken, still too fresh to unwrap. Rebecca scanned the first few pages, her breath catching. This ties everything. Transactions, names, deals. It's not just fraud. It's conspiracy. Michael exhaled. So what now? Rebecca looked up, her eyes sharp. Now we bleed him dry. One page at a time. But inside the glass tower, Daniel was already watching. He had Layla's office bugged. He had cameras in the server rooms. And earlier that morning, he'd seen something he hadn't expected. Michael and Layla, together, in the copy room. Whispering. Too long. Too close. Daniel leaned back in his leather chair, a storm rising behind his eyes. I made you, he murmured. And now, quietly, carefully. He was going to unmake them. Layla didn't come in the next morning. No warning. No text. No trail. Michael tried to keep his face unreadable as he walked the halls, but his pulse pounded louder with every step. Her desk was clean. Not cleared, just paused. Like someone had removed the air from the room but left everything else. Angela passed him in the hallway and said nothing. Just a glance, unreadable. Not fear. Not guilt. Something sharper. Michael ducked into the server room, locked the door, and called Rebecca. She's gone. Rebecca's voice was sharp. Gone how? No show. No contact. Her files are still on the drive, but she's not here. There was a pause. Then, Michael. I think Daniel knows. Daniel's voice came through the intercom around noon. Michael, my office. He walked in slow, careful. Daniel stood at the window, not turning. You know what I hate about betrayal, he said. It always comes wearing familiar shoes. Michael said nothing. Daniel finally turned. You and Layla. Cute. You think I don't watch my own house? Michael's breath caught. Daniel stepped closer. You know what your problem always was, Mike. You believed in something. This industry doesn't care about belief. It's about leverage. You mean manipulation. Daniel smirked. Same thing. You came back thinking you were smarter. That you'd sneak in and pull some whistleblower stunt. But you forgot, I taught you how to play. Michael's throat was dry. What did you do to her? Daniel shrugged. Nothing. Yet. But if you talk, things will get very unpleasant. Then he opened a drawer, slid a folder across the desk. Michael glanced at it. Inside, photos. Him. Layla. Rebecca. Meetings. Dates. Times. They had been watched for weeks. Daniel smiled. You're not playing chess. You're playing poker at a table I built. And I know every card in your hand. That night, Michael sat in his car for an hour before he could move. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. The notebook from Angela now felt like a grenade in his bag. He called Rebecca, voice barely above a whisper. He knows. Everything. She was quiet. Layla's safe. I had her moved this morning. Michael shut his eyes. Relief hit like a wave, too brief. But we can't wait anymore, she said. If Daniel's starting to squeeze, we go in now. Tomorrow. You need to get one last thing. What? A confession. Face to face. Verbal. If he admits anything, even half a sentence, it's enough. Michael laughed, bitter. He's too smart. Rebecca's voice hardened. Then make him angry. Get him reckless. Get him real. You've known him longer than anyone. You can do this. Michael stared out the windshield, heart crashing against his ribs. He didn't want to see Daniel again. But he also didn't want to run for the rest of his life. The next day, he walked into Daniel's office without knocking. You win, he said. Daniel looked up, wary. Do I? Michael sat, leaning in. Let's cut a deal. I walk. You bury the evidence. I disappear. Daniel frowned. Why the sudden change? Michael let the silence drag. Because I saw what you're willing to do. Daniel watched him. She was never yours, you know. Layla. She was mine the moment she decided to lie. That was it. Michael's hands balled into fists under the desk. You ever think maybe you were the one who ruined everything, he said. Daniel stood, voice rising. I saved you, Mike. I kept you alive. You were going down back then until I bought your silence. Michael's voice cracked. I didn't need saving. I needed the truth. Daniel pointed at him. You always needed something. A second chance. A pat on the back. Well, guess what? Life doesn't owe you redemption. Michael leaned back. Thanks, he said quietly. That's all I needed to hear. Outside, he handed the recorder to Rebecca. She didn't smile. It's enough, she said. We move tonight. And just like that, the tower Daniel built, one lie, one deal at a time, was about to collapse. But Michael didn't feel triumphant. Because exposing the truth wasn't the same as healing the past. And some ghosts, no matter how loud they scream, never really leave. They came for Daniel at 3:42 a.m. No sirens. No flash. Just shadows in tailored suits and quiet, civil voices asking him to come with them. Rebecca stood at the back of the room, arms folded. Michael watched from a distance, behind a tinted window on the third floor. Daniel didn't fight. Didn't speak. Just buttoned his jacket, glanced once at the empty desk where Michael used to sit, and walked out. Angela turned in her resignation the next morning. Layla didn't come back to the building either. The firm bled clients for weeks, slow at first, then like a vein torn wide open. The feds froze the accounts. The media swarmed. Holt and Wexler collapsed in less than a month. But Michael didn't feel the closure he thought he would. He met Aaron again in the same garage, just after sundown. Is it over? Aaron asked, handing him a beer. Michael took it, stared at the label. Legally. Yeah. Morally. I don't know. Aaron leaned against the tool bench. You did what you came to do. Did I? Michael asked. Or did I just get revenge wrapped in justice? Aaron was quiet for a long time. Then, you didn't ask for any of this. But you chose to see it through. That counts. Michael nodded. Layla's leaving the country. Angela too. And you? Michael looked out at the darkening street. I don't know. Maybe I go somewhere with no towers. No balance sheets. Think you'll ever forgive him? Aaron asked softly. Michael exhaled. No. But I might forgive myself someday. He met Layla one last time at the airport. She wore a coat too big for her, the collar turned up against the wind. In her hand, a passport with a name he didn't recognize. You could come with me, she said. Not pleading. Just a suggestion offered like a stone in calm water. He smiled. I'd slow you down. You always did, she said, but her smile softened. In the best way. They didn't hug. They didn't kiss. But something passed between them, acceptance, maybe. Or understanding that some bonds survive not by being held tight, but by letting go. As she disappeared into the terminal, Michael felt lighter than he had in years. 3 months later, Michael Caine changed his name. No ceremony. No witness. Just a man in a government office ticking boxes, surrendering the past like a set of old keys. He moved north. Bought a modest cabin by a lake. Spent his days building furniture with his hands, real things, solid things. He still couldn't sleep through the night, not always. But when he woke, it wasn't from fear. Just memory. Sometimes, he saw his reflection in the still water. Not the man Daniel tried to break. Not the boy who once believed ambition was enough. But someone quieter. Whole, in a way that didn't need noise. One morning, a letter arrived. No return address. No signature. Just 3 words scrawled on cream paper. You were right. Michael folded the note, placed it in the drawer beside his tools. He never needed a confession. But it helped.